Hi everybody and welcome to the Yoga House. In today's little short snippet, we're going to work into the transition between Chaturanga Dandasana and Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, or the transition between the reverse push-up and upward facing dog. Now this transition is a particularly tricky, sticky one. It is suitable for all levels in the way I'm going to teach it today because I'll be doing various options. So depending on where you're at with your yoga practice, if you know your way around a yoga mat, as they say, then you can work into the second or third options. If you're a first timer or if you've only just begun your practice in the last couple of years or so, then I would advise just staying with the first option that I'm going to do. Before we go into the actual transition itself, it's really important to realize and to know that in our yoga asanas, in our yoga postures, we're looking for the active postures to be a whole body event, right? So in a press-up situation, a reverse press-up situation, or a hand weight-bearing back bend, it's really important that you don't just load up in the upper body. We must integrate the core strength, the leg strength, the bum strength, etc. So the whole body is doing the posture. The whole body is therefore doing the transitions between the postures so that you remain in what we call samasthiti, which is, yes, some of you will know, a standing pose, but it's also a concept which is equilibrium. We want our body to be in balance so that we're not fighting for control, we're not creating tension in certain parts of the body to compensate for laxity in other parts of the body, right? I know this is a rather long spiel at the start of a rather short video, but it's important to keep that in mind as you're moving through your yoga practice. And as well, if you're not a yogi, this is very helpful in terms of all movements that you can do. If you just sort of practice like isolating one particular part of the body and then you don't integrate that strength into the whole body, you can create a lot of imbalance in the joints. You can teach the muscle memory the wrong thing. So this idea about it being a whole body event, that's very helpful whether you're a yogi or not. If you're just a mover, you have a different kind of movement practice. Okay, so let's begin with a strap. We're trying to get ourselves into the back body and then integrate that into the front body for these particular two postures and the transition between them. So let's go into an awareness of the triceps. Now again, even in the preparation, we're looking for a whole body event really. So what we'll do is just cross the legs if that's comfortable for you. Be aware of neutral pelvis. So if you find it difficult to sit on the ground in neutral pelvis, cushion up, put something under your bum so you can have a lovely tall trunk. And we'll take the strap behind us, hold the strap about shoulder distance apart, and then really pull into the strap like you're trying to break it. Engaging through those triceps and pull the shoulder blades down the back, right? So as we engage the triceps and pull the shoulder blades down the back, the tendency for us might be to lose our core strength. So we'll exhale our front ribs into the back ribs. And you can see there that I have a much stronger, much better posture there. Keep your breathing steady. Be aware of as much of the body as possible working in this. Even with your legs, you're pushing down with your feet, you're pushing into the hips, you're working on getting the knees down, you're opening through the groin. Now let go of the strap. Keep your arms pressing back and keep that strength in your triceps. Now bend the elbows and take the hands to the thighs, but keep the shoulder blades drawing down the back and the front ribs drawing in. So you can see what I'm getting at here. Even as we change our orientation, we're trying to create the actions that we need for Chaturanga and Urdhva Mukha and the transition between them. Keep your breathing steady as always. Now keep all of those actions in play and we'll come into a plank position. Start with your all fours, draw the shoulder blades down your back, Draw the front ribs into the back ribs so you don't lose that strength, and you can step or slide both feet back into plank position. Now push down into the hands. Now just to create a little bit of buoyancy, imagine you're coming into cat-cow and draw the back up towards the ceiling. Squeeze your front ribs into your back ribs and then start to settle into your plank pose, keeping that strength. Fire up the thighs, engage your glutes, so it's a whole body event. Plank pose. Now option 1, coming onto the knees. Keep your breathing steady now, keep your shoulder blades in your back. And bend your elbows very slowly, just let yourself come down a little bit. And power back up. Let yourself shift back for a little break into a toes tucked under child's pose, but maintain the strength in your shoulders. Draw your shoulder blades down the back, draw your front ribs in. Inhale, coming forwards again into your all fours position. Exhale, straightening into the thighs, into the knees, firm up through the legs. Option 2, bending the elbows, coming down just a little bit. You're lowering your plank in a kind of half chaturanga. And power back up, push yourself back into downward facing dog. Slowly coming forwards into plank again. Straightening into the knees, firm the thighs to do so. So you're lengthening through the thigh muscles, straightening into the knees, strong and powerful through the legs. Try to really get your toes at a right angle to the bulk of your foot. So you're right up on your tippy toes, but all 10 toes face forwards. You're on the ball of the foot. That's important to help the legs work. Now, third option, coming down into full chaturanga. And then powering back up to plank and pushing back into downward facing dog. Good, and then coming back down. So you'll notice with those 3 options that I'm keeping my shoulder blades in the back, my front ribs are in, the breath is loud and deep, I'm firming up through the legs, straightening through the knees when I'm doing options 2 and 3, engaging through the glutes. So all of those actions are still in play throughout the posture. The rule of thumb in yoga is to never sacrifice or move away from the foundation you've created just to make the posture more advanced or more fancy. If anything, when you advance the postures, you're really revisiting and revising all of those base fundamental things so that you maintain integrity in the whole body. So the next part of this we're going to do is a few options leading up to upward dog and then upward dog itself, and then we'll do the transition between the two. So your first option, instead of upward facing dog, is Cobra. But the rules are pretty much the same, right? So the feet are plantar flexed, meaning ballerina style pointing, like so, right? So you've got full extension through the front of the ankle and on the dorsum, but you're flexing the Achilles tendon and the sole of the foot, right? Initially, this could be a bit tricky, so just coax yourself into plantar flexion as much as you can. This is important for the fullness of upward facing dog, but also for Cobra as well. So for Cobra pose, hands are beside the floating ribs. Your forearms are vertical or horizontal to the ground. And then depending on the length of your forearms in proportion to the alignment of your shoulder blades and flexibility, your upper arm might be perpendicular with the ceiling. So from there, you're just pressing very gently into the hands, you're not weight bearing at all, but you're using that power hand to floor connection to draw the shoulder blades back and down your body. Squeeze the elbows in towards each other. Now you can see my feet are grounded, but my knees are not. I'm powering up through the thighs. Very, very strong there, right? So the legs are straight. All 10 toenails are on the ground. Keep squeezing the shoulder blades back. Your drishti, or your gaze, is slightly forwards and down. This is option 1. Keep engaging the glutes. All the actions are the same. Powerful, strong legs, knees straight, shoulder blades down. You're pulling the elbows in towards each other and back away from the front of your mat, pressing into the hands gently, engaging triceps. That's Cobra pose. Okay, so option 2, start to press into the feet a little bit more. Start to press into the hands a little bit more, and then see if you can lift the chest and send it forwards without dipping into your lower back. So exhale, your front ribs back, right? These are the same instructions for all parts of this video. So you'll recognize them, you'll learn them easily. Draw those front ribs back. Lift up a little higher, tiny bit of weight in the hands, but don't let your knees come down. Squeeze the shoulder blades down the back. Think about lengthen the spine rather than lifting the chest too high. Shoulder blades down the back. Option 3, full upward dog. Everything off the floor except for tops of feet and palms of hands. So you can see my thighs are still long, knees are straight. Everything's off the floor except for palms of hands, tops of feet. You can look up if you wish, or forwards. Squeeze your shoulder blades down, triceps strong. Like the strap work we did at the beginning. Good, and then rolling over, coming into downward facing dog as you roll over the toes. Let your breath deepen. Front ribs back, those familiar instructions again, shoulder blades down the back. Breath steady and even. Thighs and bum are firm. Once you take care of that, your core will just kick in automatically, but if you want to add to that, lift your pelvic floor, draw your lower belly in and up underneath your diaphragm. And then coming back down. Now we're going to go to the transition between those two postures. So Chaturanga Dandasana, four-legged staff pose, or your reverse press up. And then Adho Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog. So we're transitioning between them. Now with this transition, again, you're aware of all of the actions that are in place for those two postures remaining in place for the transition. So we're not moving away from the integrity or the foundational bits and bobs of the poses, right? So option 1, in plank position. Make sure everything's locked and loaded, really strong. Shoulder blades down, front ribs in. You can give yourself a little cat pose there if you like. Really to suck the front body up towards the back body. And then settling into the full pose without losing any of that strength. Balancing front and back body here. Exhale, knees to floor. Keep your elbows snug in. Lower yourself down a little bit. Now if you can, come all the way down onto the front body, chest before belly. Flatten out, straighten those legs and lift up into Cobra. Hands light. Shoulder blades down the back. Front ribs in, you know the drill. Thighs are strong. Knees are straight. All 10 toenails on the ground. Plantar flex those feet strongly. Good, and then push yourself back to downward facing dog. It's just a nice sorbet. You don't have to go back into downward dog. It's just a nice way to let us stretch out through the areas we've been flexing. And it teaches us about the Surya Namaskar and the Vinyasa. If you don't know what that sentence means, don't worry. Good, and then forwards we go into our plank pose. Option 2. Set up your plank first. This is the foundational pose for the next two poses and for the transitions between them, right? So
Make sure your plank is good. Squeeze your shoulder blades down. Front ribs into the back ribs. Thighs are supercharged, so powerful. You're really up on your tippy toes. So the toes themselves are on the ground. You're on the ball of the foot and the toes are facing forwards, the heels are up. Slowly lower down just into your half chaturanga. You're nice and high. And you can take one foot at a time to point and bring yourself into upward facing dog. Exhaling into downward facing dog. You can go back one foot at a time or not. Now, if the first option felt too easy, but the second option didn't feel easy enough, then I'm going to give you a little hybrid. So this is where the transitions can get a little bit confusing, but you've got to find ultimately what's right for you. So a mixture of the last two options. Let's come forwards into our plank. Really set everything up so it's nice and strong. Exhale to lower down, slightly harder than the first option, half chaturanga. Then let your knees come down and we'll come into that slightly higher cobra from there. Right, so you're lifting the thighs up. Squeeze the shoulder blades down. With practice, you'll be able to just find like that, very easily. You'll be able to find where you need to be. And then we'll push back into downward facing dog. Remember all of those actions you need so that you can stay healthy, strong and safe in these postures and these corresponding transitions. Last option. Inhale forwards into your plank. Keep breathing here. Set everything up nice and strongly. You can give yourself that cat pose. It's really, just imagine there's mat repellent on the front body and you're pulling away. And then settle into your palakasana, plank pose, keeping that strength. Exhale, full chaturanga. You're still in plank, all you're doing is bending your elbows. Inhale, pull forwards, roll onto the tops of your feet, upward facing dog. Legs strong, shoulders down, front ribs back. And then rolling back into downward facing dog. Let's hold here together for 3 or 4 breaths. Even in this pose, keeping those same actions engaged. Mental focus, perfectly steady breath. Shoulder blades down the back, front ribs in. Long spine. Strong in the bum, strong in the belly, strong in the pelvic floor, strong in the legs. And then coming back down. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of direction into the work that you need to do to work into a better transition between chaturanga and upward facing dog. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Please, any suggestions in the comments are welcome. I can be your jukebox for yoga as long as you have anything that you wish to specifically work on, or indeed if you just want a general and a longer video, I can do that for you too. Thanks everyone. Namaste.